Arthur was downing a second bottle of sake with the others as the captain made his way over. He labored to light a thick, black pipe as he hustled across the deck, barking out commands to his men. The captain was a short, heavy-set man. He had steely, deep-set eyes, with which he cast an evil, devouring stare. Marking his approach was a slight limp to his swagger. This was due to a crudely sculptured wooden peg leg protruding from the captain's pant sleeve. From a distance, through the rising puffs of smoke, Arthur could swear he recognized the captain, that he'd seen him somewhere. His hair seemed shorter, his manner more coarse, and his Japanese completely unrecognizable, but there was something familiar about this Japanese whaling ship taskmaster, this Captain Ahabu. The two sat and spoke through an interpreter. The captain explained that they were more than 2 weeks from their next port call. There'd be no thought of heading in early, so Arthur was just going to have to wait it out. The captain was brief and businesslike. Crew members explained that Captain Ahabu was under considerable strain these days and not to mind him. They said, lately, he was acting like a man obsessed. At any rate, it was best just to be patient and try not to cross him. Deciding to make the best of things and not wanting to antagonize the moody captain, Arthur volunteered to help out the crew however he could. Arthur's first day of whale fishing did not go well. He stood searching the waters off the port side for hours with the rest of the crew, dangling his bait in the water. Then, after an insufferable 5-hour wait, finally, a whale was spotted. But just as their target came into view, a fatigued Arthur broke his long silence, shouting across the deck, "Hey, Shimamura, any more of those rice balls left?" The whale took off like a shot. Captain Ahabu, who'd been spying Arthur from his cabin, slammed his door in disgust. Another 4 hours passed before the next opportunity. Again, Arthur's inexperience showed. The lookout sent word of a whale sighting from the crow's nest on high. Captain Ahabu rushed on deck. Arthur and the others grabbed harpoons and leaned out over the water. All stood at the ready, waiting the order to throw. At last, the whale came into view. It was right under Arthur's position. The shout went up. Arthur steadied himself and released his harpoon. Its weight was more than he anticipated, however, and he lost his balance in mid-toss. The others were forced to hold back their weapons as Arthur was left twisting over the side of the ship at the end of his safety line, only a few feet above the water, stabbing madly at the sea with his harpoon. Captain Ahabu ordered Arthur confined to his cabin for all future whale hunts. Arthur began to protest, but then thought better of it. It would only be for 2 weeks, and he really wasn't especially excited about participating in the torturous murder of large, helpless mammals. He spent most of his time trying to avoid Captain Ahabu in a sea-tossed game of cat and mouse. Then one day, speaking to a crew member who'd studied English in the Swiss Alps while living with Canadian exchange students, Arthur came to learn much more about this enigmatic Captain Ahabu. So, tell me, Keiji, what's the story behind this peg leg? Keiji seemed uneasy. Well, it's really best not to think about this, eh? Arthur's curiosity was riled. Come on. How bad can it be? Okay, but you didn't hear it from me. Sure. Captain Ahabu doesn't talk much about it. No one ever dares to mention anything about it in his presence. A stiff breeze crossed the ship's bow, and the salty air filled the men's nostrils. Go on. Well, about 10 years ago, Captain Ahabu was the captain of a much smaller boat. He and a crew of 6 were out whaling. It was a clear afternoon, much like today, when he saw it. The pounding waves splashed the men's feet. It? It's tough to explain. You see, they'd been trailing a small school of whales for a couple of days. On the 3rd day, they decided to make their move. The rolling sea softly rocked the ship beneath the 2 men's feet. And? As I say, it's hard to exactly say, They say the story is part truth, part lore. The crew and the captain, though, they swear by it. So what happened? KG gnashed his teeth, leaned out over the rail, and stared hard into the blue horizon. They were just about to go for the kill when a pair of speedboats appeared from out of nowhere, full of crazed environmental activists. Arthur's face lost all expression. Captain Ahabu had faced down the menace before. That wasn't the problem. What was it then? Off in the distance, there was a large cruise ship, evidently filming a TV show or something. This is where details become hazy. Anyway, the environmental activists took off and commandeered the cruise ship in the distance, And then they did the unthinkable. You mean? That's right. They rammed Captain Ahabu's vessel with the love boat. Oh my God. Captain Ahabu's ship was destroyed. In the melee, he lost 2 crew members to the sea and his leg to an angry shark. If it hadn't been for Gopher's quick action, they say he might not have made it through alive. I can't believe it. The surviving crew members tried to make Captain Ahabu listen to reason, but he never could get the images of that day out of his mind, They say that to this day he is obsessed with sailing the seas in search, desperate search, of his mortal enemy, the love boat. But surely he realizes in his room he still keeps a dartboard with Captain Stubing's photo. On many a cold and wintry night, he'll be found just standing all alone on the deck, staring out into the sea, mumbling to himself about one day finding that cursed love boat that sank his ship and took his leg. They say he will not rest until he settles the score.